There's a little bit of static in your background.
All right. Probably because of I muted the mic. Let me know if it stays around. All right, we're back. How's everyone doing? Good to be back. Well, I've wanted to do this for a while now, and I'm gonna be working on the MCU tier list. These are all the. Just need to turn that down. Get some reverb, but we're gonna be working on the basically what I think are the best and the worst Marvel movies, and we're obviously you can see the tier list right now. We go from well made, obviously a well made Marvel movie, to good but flawed, forgettable, needs work, and oh no, something went horribly wrong. And I want to be clear, when I say oh no, I don't mean like, oh, this is really, really bad. It is that too. But when I say oh no, I mean not only is it bad, but it does more than just make a bad movie. It makes the other movies bad. It does something that damages the MCU as a whole. And we've got a couple movies that fit that bill to the T. And if you notice here, I also not only have all the movies here, but a couple of shows that I've seen. I haven't seen all the MCU shows, probably because they just came out, or they don't interest me that much, or I've heard not great things about them, and frankly, I didn't want to waste my time. But after a certain point, a little bit of a history lesson with me. I have been an MCU fan. I shouldn't say an MCU. I've been a Marvel fan since I was a little kid. When I was in the early '90s, when I first watched the 1990s version of Spider-Man, that show was everything to me. And then obviously from there, I watched the X-Men, the '90s X-Men, the '90s Fantastic Four animated series. Those were all really great. The Incredible Hulk. From there, obviously, the first Blade movie I thought was awesome. And then I think I guess I'll call it my devotion to the stories kicked off when the Sam Raimi Spider-Man first came into the scene. I fell in love wholeheartedly when that movie came out, and then Spider-Man 2 just was basically the final nail in the coffin. I was hooked. Don't get me wrong. I'm also a DC fanboy. Basically, I'm a fanboy to the entire genre of superhero storytelling. And I plan on doing something similar for DC. But the problem is DC had a really rough start, and they're still trying to get their legs. So it's not really fair to compare. While Marvel has run the entire gambit of good to bad. And while they did have a really strong start, they had kind of a weak middle and then a strong ending. And then Phase 4 happened. And we'll get into that later on. So I've got all the movies here. And I've got a little list to remind me when they came out. Because while I do remember all the movies, it's just I don't remember exactly what came out when. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to... I might not be able to recognize all of it. So we're going to start from the beginning. Give me a second to stretch. And let's begin. All right, I'm trying to find it now. All right, I'm going to be doing this chronologically from the first movie to come out to the most recent story, and of course that starts off with Iron Man. And honestly, you could not start off with a better movie. Growing up, I was actually never really even a fan of Iron Man. But it's easily their strongest. When you put your best foot forward, you think of Iron Man. As, like I said, not a big fan of the character, but man, was this a well-told story, and it's a great start. And you got Tony Stark, obviously billionaire playboy, not really, very aloof, good relationship with his friends, but doesn't really care about much. Obviously, gets attacked, gets kidnapped, sees all of his work. He thinks... Because he's very patriotic, despite his flaws. But he sees that someone's been selling the enemies as weapons, and that kind of turns it around for him. He shuts everything down. He starts working on his own weapons for himself and starts taking responsibility for the actions or even the consequences that he's created. Great movie. The only real downside is the main bad guy, Ironmonger. not really that creative. And this is where we see the first real like flaw that Marvel has, where they have the bad guy be the good guy, but bad. It's not really that creative, but like I said, if it's just a story-based character, if it's just a character-based story, it does a really good job, and it's, like I said, a great start. And honestly, nobody really knew this at the time. This was before post-credits were a thing. Waiting till the end and seeing Nick Fury walk up and say, "I'm here to start the Avenger Initiative," as a kid was just the high point of my life in terms of movies, because I didn't think they were ever going to do this. Nobody thought they were going to do this. We might have eventually seen an Avengers movie, but it would have not been connected. It would have just been its own thing. Great start, great story, great character, great writing, and honest, great visuals too. Across the board, they're all really strong. All right, so I don't have a problem with this. I don't have a problem with Iron Man. Immediately after that, we get... so this is where it gets a little bit hard for me. Because immediately after that, we get The Incredible Hulk. Now, for those of you who don't know, The Incredible Hulk... The Hulk character has always been one of my favorite characters. I always love the idea of the character who wants to be either left alone or do the right thing, but has such problems doing it. He's always hunted. He's always hated. He's always seen as a monster, but just doesn't want to be that. And I feel bad for him. I really do. This movie is... The Incredible Hulk. It tries so hard, but doesn't get where it needs to go. I love it, but after talking with a lot of other people or hearing their descriptions of it, they have convinced me that it's just... It's very bland, especially for the Hulk. It needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of character. And frankly, the Hulk himself doesn't get a lot of character time as... And I think that's the biggest issue. You see a little bit of expression when he... In the first few minutes, when he first transforms, but he's in the shadow. You see his eyes. You see how he kind of doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to be this character. Especially when he's with Betty. But you don't get enough of it. And Edward Norton, he does a good job as Bruce. I honestly liked him more than Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. But from what I heard, he is not an easy character to work with. And if you're going to do a franchise, you need someone who's more, I guess I would say, more of a team player, which is what happened with Rhodey and Iron Man. I forget what the actor's name is, but they replaced him right away because he was, if you're going to do a franchise movie, you gotta have people you're willing to work with long term. But... And even like the post-credit scene was kind of forgettable. I mean, it was a good thing that they brought Tony Stark back, and having him talk with General Ross. But that wasn't really much of a... It was just more of a confirmation of what we already knew. So, and again, same problem. The bad guy is the good guy, but evil. I love the fight. I loved hearing Hulk say Hulk smash. But in the long run, it's not a great movie. It really isn't. And it hurts to say that. Because I do love this character a lot. Alright. From there we have... Oh, geez. See, this is where I got like a little bit weirded out. Because from there we have... I'm just trying to find it. Over here. You think I'd be able to recognize it from the poster right away. Did I not? That's 3. Oh, here it is. Iron Man 2. Oh, man. Okay, so from the beginning, I thought... I'll be honest, when I first saw these movies, I thought they were all great. As I get older, I can see the flaws kind of happen. You see, like... This is where, like, Tony Stark really, as a character, starts having... This is where he starts having his, like, physical problems, where where his past is starting to bite him. And I think this is also where they introduce Black Widow. Yeah, this is where they introduce Black Widow. And I like that. I like the introduction of Black Widow. I like the introduction of Whiplash, but I don't... And I like how it's another series of, like, his dad... he's trying to connect with his family more, which is good, which is what they do with what they do with this later on is really good, but what they do with it now is not that great. Obviously we get War Machine. Wait, am I confusing these? Am I confusing something with Iron Man 3? No. Everything so far is solid. Because Iron Man 3 is when we get something else. Much, much worse. Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to put this under the forgettable. Because, like I said, it has its problems. It has a cool... what I like, though, is it does show that Iron Man has been working on more suits, more ideas, has been advancing his... I guess his legacy is how I would say it. You see him have more relationship with his security, with Pepper Potts, with Happy, but they don't really do anything other than him just dealing with his emotional issues, and they don't even resolve it in a very satisfying way. I mean, it's great that he gets to kind of like understand where his dad's coming from when he discovers that didn't make any sense to me if you really break it down. His dad left him an entire like miniature scale. I can't remember what it was. It was like this miniature park, and from there he extracts the secret metal alloy to create a new arc reactor to save his life. What? His dad created a new alloy decades before he'd even did. Okay, sure. Okay, well, let's just pretend that happened. That doesn't make any sense. And he left it to him in the form of a puzzle. Why? It just doesn't.
That's a mystery.
It's a mystery. It didn't. No. If anything, you know what? I'm gonna put that under needs work. I take it back. That was really, really dumb. I actually, don't get me wrong, as far as that goes, I did like the introduction of Black Widow. I like how they portrayed her. I liked how cool she was. I loved watching her fight. And that's the thing that we miss nowadays when we see a female character fighting. Nowadays they just make her they make them like a powerhouse. But when you watch Black Widow fight, she's very athletic, very quick. She uses her momentum and uses quick strikes to put people down. And I love the scene where she's fighting off like 7 or 8 guys, and then you see Happy in the side just punching one guy over and over. And as soon as he's done, he turns around and sees that she just mowed through an entire lawn full of men. It was hilarious. I loved it. Good start for Black Widow. Not a great continuation for Tony Stark. Whiplash as a character, I actually liked Whiplash and Hammer. I actually did like a lot of their synergy. I liked their communication. But Whiplash, it did feel like he did have a lot of a reasonable grudge to hold against Tony Stark, but it never came off as, I guess the word I'm trying to say is he never really interacts with Tony in a meaningful way. And I think that's a really big miss. When you have a bad guy that has such a big personal grudge with the main character and they never really interact, that's huge. That's a big missed opportunity. So that's why it needs a lot of love. It needs a lot of work. There's a lot to fix there. From there, we go into... Okay. So from there, we go into Thor. Now, as soon as I can find it here on this stupid... Here it is. Thor... I liked Thor. I liked Odin. I liked Loki. So, this is the story of a prince, a warrior prince, who he believes is ready to take the throne and lead his people. And I actually genuinely feel bad because if you watch the first 20 minutes of this movie, it's really, really, it's really well done. Especially when I forget the name of the actor, but the man who plays wow, I can't remember the name of the father now. I keep calling him Odin's. It's not Odin's son, but it's oh man, what's the name of? Oh, it's Odin. What am I? I am an idiot. His name is Odin.
Professional stream. He knows
Professional.
everything.
It's Odin's son, like Thor Odin's son, and his father, the son of Odin. Yeah. Wow. Fake nerd here. Fake gamer girl. Anyway, I love the portrayal he has. I loved when, I believe, if I remember correctly, the frost giants actually attacked first. So Thor asks his father to retaliate. Odin says no. So as a secret, pushed by Loki, Thor goes in and attacks them. They're surrounded, they're fighting as hard as they can, and then all of a sudden, Odin shows up. Thor looks to Odin and says, "Good, father, you're here. Now we'll finish them off once and for all." And he looks at him the same way a father would look at his son who just drove his Porsche into a house and says, "You shut your mouth right now. I'm going to go deal with the cops." He talks to the king of the frost giants. He explains them the situation. He calms it down. And then he rips everyone back home. And this is where I like this is one of my favorite interactions where Thor is actually like legitimately mad at his dad. Because he thought he was doing the right thing. If he's going to be king, he's got to make these kinds of decisions. And Odin doesn't really know how to explain to Thor, a headstrong, powerful warrior, that you need a level of humility and patience to be an effective ruler. At this point, he strips him of his power, takes the Mjolnir, casts him into Earth, and we hear one of my favorite incantations. Oh man, I can't remember exactly what it says because I'm still fighting off a flu, so I'm a little groggy. But it's basically, whoever wields the Mjolnir, if he be worthy, whoever wields the Mjolnir will have the power of Thor. It's something like that. I can't remember it right off the top of my head. I want to look it up now because I'm going to look it up right now. No, it's not important. But basically, you have to be worthy to have the power of Thor. From there, we just watch. And that's, from there, Thor on Earth, it is funny and it has some good moments. But it's honestly like a real hard, and this is where I hear the same thing, it's a real difficult time for people to sit through. It's the most boring part. It struggles. It's very slow. I mean, you do get some good stuff with Loki. You do see him kind of basically telling him what's been happening, what's wrong, that he can't let Thor back up. There's nothing he can do. Honestly, this movie suffers from a very weak middle. So it's a good idea. It's a good movie, but it needs a lot of work. It's got great moments, but it needs a lot of work. And I'll put it at good but flawed. It's just about forgettable. All right. From there we go on. Okay. From there we probably go into one of my favorite movies. As soon as I can find it. Here he is. Thor also have no friends? That's not true. Thor has plenty of friends. He's got the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif. Thor has a ton of friends, Waffles. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's be clear. You don't need a lot of friends. You just need some good friends. Right, Banner will pity hang with him. I mean, that's what kind of happened in Thor Ragnarok. Alright, from there we go to Captain America, the First Avenger. And honestly, it's not even hard to say. Captain America is like easily one of the better movies that Marvel has made. It's not the best, but it is a strong origin movie. I think, and from a character story, it's honestly like a good start. And it gives us a good insight into who Steve Rogers is. Nothing's going to highlight more of what kind of person... America. Nothing's going to highlight more of what kind of person Steve Rogers is than the first scene in the movie theater. Where obviously everyone's hanging out, they're watching the movie, and there's just this dick. And we've all seen this guy. where he just won't stop talking. He'll criticize everything, and he's just ruining the environment for everyone. You see him in nowadays where they're talking on their phone, they're throwing popcorn, they're just being rude. And Steve, at 5'2", 75 pounds, soaking wet, just calls this guy out. And what happens next? They go at it in the alley, and dude's literally twice his size, but you do not see him back down. And that's where he gets his first famous line: "I can do this all day." He doesn't back down from anyone. He just does what he thinks is right. And this whole movie is just an example of that. The grenade being tossed. What does he do? Jumps on it. It's a dud. He didn't know that. He was willing to give his life to save a bunch of strangers. And Erskine is just such a good character. What is he looking for? He's not looking for a warrior. He's not looking for a soldier. He's looking for a good man. He's looking for someone to give the serum to, because he's looking for someone who will take the power that is given to him and make it worth it. And I think this is where one of the things people tend to confuse. He gives the line saying, the serum what brings out whatever's in there. If it makes good people great and it makes bad people worse. And people tend to think that it messes with your mind. I don't think that's the case. I think that's what he was trying to say was, I'm about to give you a lot of power. And with great power, basically, that's not with great power comes great responsibility. It's power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you give someone power, their real nature tends to show who they are. And when Captain America is given the serum, we see who he is. And and the great thing about it is Red Skull, we see who he becomes when he's given very similar power. And people tend to forget that. People tend to forget that it's not really like your powers don't make you good or bad. It's who you are that make your powers define who you are. That's why Captain America's like one. I will still watch it over and over to this day. Captain America's just a solid movie. It's very well made. All right. Oh, man. So, from here, we get the first Avengers movie. I don't even know what I need to say about it. It's a great start. It's absolutely phenomenal. I laughed. I cried. There's no scene in there that's wasted. Joss Whedon, for all of his problems now, did an absolutely amazing job, not only in character writing, not only in choreography, not only in the fight scenes, but just overall dialogue between all of the characters. This is a movie that, honestly, if we went from, the first Iron Man movie to Avengers and then just stopped, this would have still been a great series. I would have been happy with that. I mean, I would have wanted more. Don't get me wrong. I still want more, despite what's happening. But this is a perfect little window into just absolute greatness. And it's not even it's not even revolutionary. It's not even it is revolutionary for its time. It was a culmination of 6 movies into one great combination of characters. It's great. But the story itself is not jaw-dropping. They don't take any real big risks. But it's just everything you expected, and it's done effectively. I can't even begin to describe. If I were to explain everything I loved about this movie, we'd be here for an hour, and I'd just be recounting the entire movie with you. The scene with Natasha and Bruce Banner first time meeting, it's great. How he tests her, it shows for the first time, because you remember when we see Black Widow for the first time, she's bound and gagged and completely calm the whole time. But the first time she meets Bruce Banner, the Hulk, this is the first time we see her on edge. Great. Yeah, dude, I love these movies. I love the Avengers. I'm not ashamed of it. Freaking the first time Hulk and Thor go at it. The dialogue between Captain America and Iron Man, just pushing each other's buttons. The discovery of the weapons. Because let's be honest, if once you see someone like Thor touch down on Earth, you're never going to stop developing weapons. When you are that underpowered, you need to work on something. And it all makes sense. It's all very logic. It all flows logically. The scene where Loki is being interrogated by Black Widow and doesn't even realize it. It's just great. Hulk! Smash! Yes, Quasimodox. Thank you. That's a good way of putting it. Black Widow sold how powerful Hulk is before that iconic punch. That is true. Because let's be honest, we've seen her a lot not be worried. It's just amazing. And I remember when they were first attacked and they fall through the floor, she's like stuck doing whatever she can to calm that big guy down. Thank you for the bits. I didn't even mention that. Thank you so much for the bits. So from calming him down to just frantically running for her life, it's just phenomenal. Obviously, like, surviving the prison that was designed to kill him was... No, wait, that was Thor. I'm sorry. I got confused there for a second. But at the same time being thrown into a jet and then flung off. That was hilarious. I'm not even going to bring up the whole I was going to say Tesseract. The T'Chari fight. It's just a lot of fun. And that's something we've lost recently. The coordination. The planning. Where you see Captain America just break everything down. Tony, you take to the sky, circle around, make sure everyone stays in the location. Thor, choke out those guys, make sure that no more come in through there. Hawkeye, get to the high ground, call out locations, patterns, whatever you can. It's just great planning, great communication, and then the combo attacks, people working together. It's just from beginning to end, it's all great. It's all great. I just remember that little scene where Iron Man's trying to repair the shield helicarrier, and he asks Captain America, "What do you see?" "Well, it runs on electricity." "You're not wrong." It's basically asking your grandpa to plug in your computer. Like, good luck. It's not gonna go well. Okay, but moving on, because I think we're gonna, like I said, there's so much about this movie I can love. It's just phenomenal. Let's see. All right. Oh no. So from here. Oh, I'm sorry. I picked the wrong movie. This is Avengers: Age of Ultron. This is the original Avengers. There we go. Wait, can I move these around? Oh man, I should have done this beforehand. I could have organized this way better. Professional stream. Iron Man 3. There's not much to say about this one. It's real not good. I will say this though. I loved the Mandarin up until the reveal. What they were doing, because the Mandarin in the comics was like this mystic ring guy, the 10 ring guy, who was, I didn't know much about him. I was not a big fan of him. So I was not as heartbroken as other people were. But what they were doing with him was, I thought was great. Having basically a very intimidating terrorist just messing with people hardcore and just calling I can't remember if it was the president at the time or some high-ranking official, just to call him, and if he didn't, he would execute a person live on screen, live on television. And he got the call, and he still executed him, just as a power play. That was insane to me as a kid. Like watching that movie, I was so intimidated by this guy. And then the reveal. I'm not even going to talk about like AIM at all. Like that was just weird. I don't even see that movie is such a weird fever dream to me. I can't even remember it clearly. All I remember is like these high-powered mutants that would eventually blow up because they were so unstable. I can't even remember it. It just wasn't good. I'm gonna move on because I can't think of many good things to say about it. Oh yeah, and here's one last thing I'll say though. No. When you kidnap the president and you have other Avengers available, that's a big deal. You can't just kidnap the president and not have like at least Captain America, Hawkeye, and Black Widow show up. That's a big deal. That's a Shield level event at least. And I want to be clear, forgettable does not mean, it doesn't need to be bad. It just means like it didn't do, I didn't make change this. Oh, good to know. Lets me work on things later on in my life. Anyway. Oh, jeez. Thor the Dark World. I don't even... See, here's how forgettable this movie is. I don't even remember actually saving the poster for it. It's right here. I'm going to be 100% honest. I think it's an okay movie. It had some really interesting ideas. I can't remember any of it to save my life. I have no interest in rewatching it. I honestly can't even remember lines. The only thing I remember is the professor going insane and walking around in his underwear. I don't know. I take that back. I hope he was in his underwear, but I'm pretty sure he was butt-ass naked. Yeah, that's basically it. Thor the Dark World. Meh. Very solid meh out of meh. Could not remember it to save my life. You point a gun to my head right now, I'm pretty sure I'm losing my life. I can't even quote a line. That's how. Oh, okay. So here's where we get interesting. Here's where we get a little controversial. Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So here's where my tier list kind of has some real issues. Because when I first saw this movie, I thought, wow, this is really, really good. This is well made. It's not... Upon rewatch, there are some serious issues with this movie. I love the scene where we kind of figure out the infiltration process. We figure out what's been happening with S.H.I.E.L.D., with Hydra, what's been going on all these years. But man, do we have a real issue with like planning, coordination. And again, you can't have an event this big without other Avengers being involved. Honestly, I still think it's good, but so my first problem became you can't have Nick Fury be sniped through a wall and survive. Like that was so weird to me. Like how did you fake that? You must have planned that ahead for so long. You can't that cannot have been a thing. Second, oh man, I had a second. It just flew past my mind. Oh, right. This is the movie where Captain America, Steve Rogers, has easily the highest body count. Let's be fair. Every one of those helicarriers is dead. You can't have those two ships just crash from the sky and have everyone be okay. Second, you can't have those ships crash from the sky into buildings and have everyone be okay. People died. A lot of people died. Let's be fair. It's still a fun movie. It's still a good movie. It still has a lot of good emotional payoffs. It just needs work. It just needs a little work. I'm willing to put it in good but flawed, but honestly, it needs a little work. It's still a good movie. Captain America has a great character moment, and honestly, that speech where he kind of encourages everyone to do what they think is right, I love it. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people died because of it, but it's still the right thing. I still think it's the right thing. Oh my goodness. So this is like the most interesting challenge I've ever seen Marvel be put with. Guardians of the Galaxy. My goodness. So I'm going to be honest, as an MCU fanboy, as an MCU fan, this is the one that caught me off guard because when I've only ever heard of them Guardians of the Galaxy before this, and even then I've only seen images or cameos when they appear in other shows. I never had an interest in them. And when I saw this movie, I thought, wow, This is nothing like the comics. This is nothing like I've ever seen before. And it was phenomenal. They did a great job. Peter Quill, the first few minutes when you see him, honestly, as someone who's gone through a similar experience just recently, I get it, man. I get it. When his mom was reaching out for him on her deathbed and he runs away, putting that on like an 8-year-old, man, that's rough. And I can see why he still thinks about it to this day. I can see why when he meets someone he gets attached to, he's overly attached. You can see, they did a great job with Peter Quill. They did a great job with Gamora. Great job with Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and Drax. Every character gets an appropriate amount of screen time, an appropriate amount of development, an appropriate amount of action. It's all very well balanced. I love it. All the reasoning is there. Guardians of the Galaxy, great first movie, great first step, great across the board. Honestly, I'm probably going to watch it again after this is done. Here's the thing. I want to show my son the MCU, but I really want to get to Guardians of the Galaxy because I think he'll enjoy that one the most. So I might just skip ahead. And that's the best thing about Guardians of the Galaxy. It's so detached from the MCU that you can show it out of order and you'll ruin nothing. The most you ruin is that you get to the Power Stone like right away. And even then, that's not a big deal. I love it. And James Gunn is coming back to do the third one. Final one I hear. I'm fine with that. Alright, following the Guardians, we have... Oh, no. Avengers Age of Ultron. Do I even need to say it? This one has so many problems. Well, I do like the introduction of Wanda and Pietro. And I get that you had to kind of kill Pietro, but like the way they did it was not great. I mean, it was emotional. It made a lot of sense, but I'm pretty sure he could have dodged the bullets, I should say. There's so many places to start. There's so many like great and weak moments in the movie. Honestly, it's kind of forgettable too. The Hulk Iron Man fight scene though, absolutely great. I loved every minute of it. I loved it a lot. I still remember the scene where Hulk grabs the Hulkbuster suit and then it kind of wraps around his fist, and then he just starts pile driving his face in the print, just screaming, "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep." And he spits out a tooth, looks at him and goes, "I'm sorry." It's not a good place to be. And you see great character moments for Tony there too, because obviously the fight is in a populated city, and Tony's doing everything he can to keep the population damage to a minimum. He's jumping out to save people. He even buys a building that's abandoned and destroys it with the Hulk just to like minimize damage and or mitigate costs for the people. It's great moments, but man, is Ultron weak. And here's the thing. He gets the AI from what we know to be now the Mind Stone. And don't get me wrong, I get it in the sense that, the Mind Stone, clearly it might have a great mind in there, so you create an AI out of it. But let's be honest, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And from there, you make Ultron. And from that, you take Jarvis and you make Vision. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's be honest, it doesn't make a lot of sense. This movie is, I don't make sense. I have to rewatch it just to be absolutely clear, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. And here's the thing, it does do a lot of setting up. With Wanda, you set up Thanos through the visions. You kind of put Tony on this quest of just trying to protect the world on hyper mode, which he makes a lot of his mistakes later on. And it actually culminates in a later movie, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But as of what we know right now, this is a very poor Avengers sequel. We'll be getting better later. Don't get me wrong. We'll be getting better later. But from there, Ant-Man. Ant-Man, it's a very funny movie. Paul Rudd does a great job. And it gets one of the classic lines, Baskin Robbins always finds out. I love that line. But let's be honest, it has a very weak villain. Again, what's the villain? The good guy but evil. Same powers as the good guy but evil. Really, honestly, like a lot of the stuff they do with the size changing is very fun, but it's very inconsistent. Because the way to describe it is, you don't change your mass, you just condense it all. Which they do a good job in the beginning when you see him change and he hits the ground and it creates a small crater. It makes sense, and when you punch someone, you're punching someone with the mass of a grown adult. But it's not consistent, because if you think about it, you're the same weight. There's no way an ant will be able to carry you. So it's just like a little inconsistent. But apart from that, it's just a lot of like, I don't even know what to say. Like, the side characters are fun, but it's just like I can't remember much of this movie, and nothing really pulls me back towards it.
Wait a minute, he's the same weight?
Yeah.
Oh, so, okay, but then when he's doing, like, I haven't seen much of the Marvel movies, but doesn't he, like, sneak into an enemy at some point?
Oh, he sneaks into a bunch. He sneaks into Iron Man suit.
If he's the same weight, wouldn't they be able to feel this, like... Because when you have a spider or, like, an ant crawling on you, even at that small size, you feel it.
You feel that, yeah.
So, at his weight...
You can feel that.
But what I'm saying is, at his weight, wouldn't you feel that, like, a lot more? Like, this giant thing is on you?
Yeah, this pinpoint... Like, let's say Paul Rudd weighs 150 pounds. You're feeling a 150-pound dot on your shoulder.
How does he sneak anywhere if 150 pounds is just, like, dotting you up?
It does. Like, you kind of have to ignore it at that point, and I don't like when movies do that. Just ignore it.
Okay, so it's just one of those things you have to accept. Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Oh, he's the weight of an ant, but except when he's fighting. So yeah, it's a little wonky. They don't do a good job explaining some things, and honestly, like it's an okay movie. But I've never gone back to it. It's like I said, apart from some very specific scenes, I don't come back to it. And it doesn't really affect the MCU as a whole. Alright, this is where we're going to Phase 3. And honestly, I'll say if this is going to get a little bit boring for the tier list, because a lot of these movies are just phenomenal. From Phase 3, we get Captain America Civil War. And I have to say that Captain America Civil War is easily, honestly, probably Marvel's best movie. Captain America Civil War, despite it being a Captain America movie, you basically have almost all the Avengers. You're missing what? Thor, Hulk. Who else are you missing? I think that's it. I think you're only missing Thor and Hulk. It also introduces Black Panther and Spider-Man. Great job for both of them too. They do this entire Captain America movie is it is the best they've ever produced. It takes all the stories we've seen from the beginning to right now. All the decisions, all the failures, all the cause and effect that we've experienced from the very beginning to right now, it all culminates into the Sokovian Accords. They've grown in power, they've grown in numbers, and the world wants to put them in check. Not register them, not ban them, just say, look, you guys are really threatening. We need to put something on you. We need a system of checks and balances. And I can understand the government wanting to do that. 1 second. We can understand. I'm still very diseased right now. I can understand the government saying, "Hey, yeah, you guys are kind of out of our power league right now. We need to do something." Obviously, we have Tony Stark, who started off as a very independent character who wanted to do things his way, and every time he does that, he fails horribly and causes more damage. His last effort was literally creating Ultron, and it caused him more devastation than anyone had ever experienced.
That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage. So he's kind of realized at that point, look, I've been trying to do this. It's been failing. Maybe I need to be put in check. Whereas Captain America started off as like the boy in blue, a man of the army, And as he sees what's happening through his decisions, like he realizes that maybe the government can't be trusted. No one organization or group of people can be trusted. The only person that can be trusted is the individual, the person who makes the right call. And it's a very natural progression of the characters and a very natural conflict that we see in this movie. Obviously, the sides are chosen. Black Panther is very... Oh, man. I loved Black Panther in this movie. The whole revenge arc he has after he loses his father. Baron Zemo, easily one of the best villains, despite not being a physical threat. Think about that. One of my favorite lines in this movie is like, I've seen stronger men than me take on the Avengers and fail. He knew he wasn't going to win a fight. Why bother? So he did the next best thing. He destroyed the Avengers through conflict. It's a really thought-provoking, that's the thing. You have a villain who doesn't fight, but you have a lot of great fight scenes. Oh my goodness, when he finally reveals to Tony who killed his parents. Why? And that not only that Captain America, Steve Rogers, had been keeping it from him the whole time to protect his friend. Because that's how Steve Rogers is. He'll protect his friends no matter what. Even if that means lying sometimes. Oh, man. That final fight, like, that's heartbreaking when you really look at it again. Because Tony is not really quippy anymore. Like, he'll have that line where it's like, fuck it, I'll eyeball it and shoots a missile into the air. Or to his escape path. You see that, and you think to yourself, he's not really quipping anymore. He's not talking. He's just focused with rage. And it's just absolutely great. I keep jumping around this movie, and there's so much to talk about. But if I had the time, I would talk about it more. But from here on out, that movie is phenomenal. Easily the best. They didn't waste a single moment. Alright, moving on. Doctor Strange. I'm going to be honest, Doctor Strange has some really cool visuals, really fun writing. I honestly, I'm trying to find it. Here it is. I can't remember much about it. Like, I'll say this, though. I do like a lot of the interactions that he has with the Ancient One. I do like the idea of Dormammu. The villain, I don't even remember his name. I don't remember much about the story. I know the magic's a little wonky at first. Okay, so we're going to come back to the magic later on. But the magic they introduce in this world starts off very strong. I like that there's a limiting factor, because we find out that the Eye of Agamotto has an Infinity Stone. So clearly that level of power is kind of... Okay, it's a lot of power, but there's an explanation to it. I'm actually, I'm going to put it in good but flawed. It has some problems, but I do remember enjoying that movie thoroughly, and it does have... And it does really do a good job explaining Doctor Strange's character. A very focused, very well-intentioned character, but very prideful. He's like... They compare him a lot to Tony Stark, and they do a good job. And they do butt heads a lot. I do like that a lot. There's not much more I can say about this movie. I think it's really well made, but it does have a lot of problems. Especially with... Oh, I forget his name. His... Oh, jeez. I feel bad now. I think it's like Baron Dormo or something. I can't remember it now. But his motivation doesn't make sense to me. It's magic is getting out of control, so he's going to steal the magic away. But I can't remember it. It's just, for me, it has a lot of issues, but it's still a decent movie. Alright. And it's been a long time since I've seen it, so it's hard for me to remember it. So I'm being a little bit... Oh, jeez. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Honestly, it's a great sequel to a great movie. There's nothing really wrong with it. I can't really find many holes. The one issue if I had to point out an issue that existed, it has to be that you don't really know what the bad guy is. It's very, like... action light for a movie. Honestly, it only has really two big action scenes. The very first one where they're fighting the monster and then escaping with the power batteries. I don't know, I guess, like, I take it back. Oh, jeez, I'm sorry. Give me a moment, guys.
Disease.
Yeah. Fighting the cough.
It's okay, we'll just put you on coughing ASMR.
Is that a thing?
if I thought of it, somebody else definitely in the world has.
Oh, you know it's a fetish out there.
You're going through tier list.
Anyway. No, I forgot about this scene where Yondu and Raccoon are actually, like... Rocket Raccoon are trying to escape. Oh, that scene was great. It's a very colorful, very well-made movie. I don't have much to say about it. It's just really fun, really funny, really interesting, visually stunning. And two of, like, honestly, the most emotional moments in the entire MCU. One of which is obviously, like, Peter Quill finding out that Ego was the one who killed his mother. That was heartbreaking. And how he reacted, it kind of, like, sets up stuff in the future and it kind of confirms who he is as a character. And then, obviously, Yondu, the final sacrifice. Man, I can't even remember the lines that one. All I remember is pure emotion, and it all makes sense to me. And then all the Ravagers coming back to give away their Ravagers a farewell. That if like all these movies up top, all these movies, I recommend you watch them over and over again. Never stop watching them. These are the movies that we deserve from the MCU. Oh man, moving on. Spider-Man Homecoming.
The first Spider-Man where MJ doesn't look like a foot.
I'm going to go ahead and ignore that. So this is where it gets a little tough for me. So, when I talk about Spider-Man, the first thing I hear is he's not like the Spider-Man from the comics or the cartoons, which is true. He has a very... Okay, so he does have a very similar origin story in the sense that he did lose his uncle. He did get taught with great power comes with responsibility. We just don't see it. So, from a meta aspect, it does feel a little jarring and it's a little strange for people to cope with that. And I get that, but they do cover all of the story beats for Peter Parker in just a different way. You give him these opportunities where he has to make responsible choices and he does the right thing each time. He fails a few times, don't get me wrong. And sometimes he messes up in big ways, ruins it for other people. But the important thing is that as a hero, you just don't stop trying. And even if everything's taken away from you, you don't stop. And we get that in Spider-Man Homecoming. We get that. He never gives up. He always does the right thing. And he even has opportunities to make the bad decision, and he doesn't. I really do like Spider-Man Homecoming. I'll say this. I don't know how controversial this is, but this 10 points for Hot Aunt May. Yes, I will say this. He does have the best version of Aunt May. Everyone wants a piece of Aunt May's homemade apple pie.
Disgusting.
Yes, very disgusting. I'm not proud of that. But I will say this. Probably my favorite villain in the entire MCU.
Oh, no, you have to knock that movie down, I just realized.
Why?
I want your stream to stay family friendly, but P-word Parker. Remember that scene?
Oh, jeez.
You need to knock it down for that. That's so
that's just you. That's just you.
Okay, you
okay,
can't...
I don't like the Flash, and I don't like what he says.
Okay.
But that made Harlem laugh.
No. Think about it this way, though. Any bully that anyone has ever had growing up through junior high, high school, whatever, if they were at a party and being like, Penis Parker, I would honestly, like... I don't even know. Like, I can't take that bully seriously. That's not even a diss.
Oh, yeah. No, he's a terrible bully.
Say.
He's a terrible bully.
Like, so many Flashes have been better than that, and, like, all they can come up with is Penis Parker? Like, tripping him, putting him in a locker, like, anything they could have done that was bully-like would have been better than that.
I don't know.
Also, he's on, like, what is he on, like, the debate squad? So your bully is
he's
now
on, like,
also a nerd? What?
Oh, yeah, but he's a dumb nerd. He's the dumbest out of all of them.
Yeah, but, like, still, it's like...
Like, the only reason... I think they've established, like, through, like, very subtle ways that the only reason he's there is because his parents pay for it.
Right, but still, like, it's just a really poorly designed character, and honestly, for me, like, that whole moment when he was trying to bully Peter Parker, like, it just brought down the whole movie for me. I was just like, it took me out of it and was like, okay, this is, like, super lame.
While I agree with you that can happen, the important thing to remember is that Flash is such a minute part of the story that it doesn't really affect the overall rating. While I acknowledge that he's bad, it's, like I said, not enough to...
But it's the same sort of sense of, like, what you were talking about before, where the villains are making such, like, a low impact on the movie that, like, it kind of brings it down. Yeah, while he's not a villain, we all know by this point, there's been so many Spider-Mans, who Flash is supposed to be, like, what kind of character he is, and just seeing such a downgrade, it's kind of like, really?
Yes, it is disappointing. But again, the villain is very different from someone like Flash. You could actually remove Flash entirely from the...
Which they should have just done if they were going to put that disgrace out there.
And nothing would change. Almost nothing would change. Don't get me wrong, there should be some key moments that would need to be rewritten, but like you wouldn't lose much.
I personally think you need to knock it down a tier for Penis Parker, but it's up to you. It's your tier list.
On your tier list, you can do whatever you want. Penis Parker is not enough for me to say no.
It's so bad.
It made your uncle laugh.
That doesn't take much to make him laugh.
Anyway, but yeah, like I said, the best villain out of the entire MCU, the Vulture. Very reasonable, understandable motivation, actions, all of that. Really solid. Real well-made movie. I give it a 9 out of 10, easy. Oh man, Thor Ragnarok. Where is it? Right here. It's hard for me to actually see it because it's just so colorful. But here it is. Thor Ragnarok. I loved Thor Ragnarok. I had problems with it for very meta reasons, obviously. They were in Sakaar. They kind of took Hulk's story and gave it to Thor. Well, not in the sense that like he goes through the same emotional beats, but just like the world. But apart from that, as a story on its own, it's a really fun, good story. It does touch on a lot of things that Thor needs to go through to develop his character. The problem I have is that it doesn't really take anything seriously. The death of Odin is not taken seriously. They kind of just fly right past it right away. His emotional struggles, his dealing with it, and this is the first sign of. And this is not something I blame Taika Waititi for. This is something I'm blame. I don't know who to blame for this, but at a certain point, and we'll see this farther on as the movies go, they stop taking Thor seriously and kind of make him the butt of jokes. Now, it doesn't happen as often in this movie as it does further on, but I don't know how to say it, but it's okay. Well, it's why he has no friends. I mean, if you were to say that after Thor Ragnarok, I kind of would agree with you. He kind of loses a lot of friends. And that's another thing, too. Like, shortly after this movie, we're going to see some real hard times for Thor. If I remember correctly, oh my goodness, that's right, in Thor Ragnarok, no, I'm sorry, Dark World, he loses all of his friends. He loses the Warriors 3 to the invasion, doesn't he? No, this is where Hela kills all of his friends. Oh my goodness, that's right. On his attempt to escape, they'd sacrifice their lives trying to get him out. So yeah, he loses a lot in this movie, and he's only going to ever lose more as the story goes on. Thank God for the Avengers to be there emotionally for him. Wink, wink. But for this movie alone, really funny, really well done. The only real flaws I have is with actually Valkyrie. She does, if you think about it, Valkyrie does a lot of messed up stuff. She captures and enslaves people to fight for other people's amusements. And they never really address that. She never really comes back from that. They just kind of like write it off and just go on about business like, oh no, she's a Valkyrie, she's a hero, therefore she is good. That's not great. So like I said, this movie has problems. But overall, very entertaining, very colorful, very well done. I like the fights between him and Thor and Hulk, and even the conversations between him and Hulk. It's just a fun movie. I recommend it. Like I said, these movies are good but flawed. Wait, how did Thor Dark World get up here? Did I put... No, I put him in... Oh, that's the first Thor. I'm sorry. I thought that was Thor the Dark World. No, first Thor's fine. Thor Dark World's here with Natalie Portman gently caressing Chris Hemsworth's very firm pecs. Okay, let's be honest. If Chris Hemsworth was right here, who would not take the opportunity to fondle his chest? Show of hands. Who would not do it? You're lying.
I would not know.
Why?
Because you know my types, and he does not fall into that type.
Oh, yeah. You have two types.
Yeah,
do you want me to tell them what your two types are?
You can go right ahead, honey. Exploit your wife.
My wife has two types. She has really skinny, really frail, feminine Asian men. Or really big, really bulky, orc-like men. There's no in between for males. That's it. Can you guess which category I fall under? Alright. I don't even remember where I left off. I think we were talking about caressing Chris Hemsworth, and I'm still stand by that. No homo. Oh no. Alright, here's where we get to the Black Panther. This movie needs work. This movie had a lot of flaws, a lot of problems, both CGI, story-wise, character-wise. Honestly, I think they did Black Panther a disservice in this movie. They made him a complete idiot. Like, let's recap what he does. He doesn't need to accept the challenge, but after the guy insults I believe it was his mother, or his sister, or both at that point, he accepts the challenge and almost loses, all because he couldn't keep his pride in check. Then he does the same thing later on with Killmonger and loses completely. It's just poor decision making. Don't get me wrong. Oh, let's not even talk about Wakanda as a concept. First of all, okay, I get the giant dome shield. I think it's a good idea in present times, but before look, okay, so there's so many little problems. The rhino farming, really? Let's be honest. A rhino. Someone said that. Oh, who was it that said rhino milk was a good source of nutrition? It's not. It's 99% water. It's like nothing. Oh my goodness! You just want rhinos there so they can ride rhinos into battle. Let's be honest. That'd be awesome. It was awesome, but it's ridiculous. Oh, and the technology for the Wakandas is insane. You have these little balls that literally do everything. If you were to tell me this ball could track people, could disable stuff, could be used as a weapon, okay, yeah, sure, that sounds fine. Oh, but if you insert it into a severed spine, it'll heal it. Like, I'm sorry, what? It's just weird. And like I said, it's another scenario where it's like the bad guy is the good guy but evil, same powers. Oh my goodness, the power source! I didn't even remember I forgot about the flowers. Oh my, there's a lot. I have to rewatch the movie, but there's just so many issues that when I looked at it, I was like, I just couldn't enjoy it. And then we get on to Avengers Infinity War. This movie is phenomenal. I think it's like a great start to something. And here's the thing. Okay, I don't know where to start with this because there's a lot to say about Infinity Wars. But oh man, let's start with the introduction of Thanos and Thor. My God, just starting off, just decimating the Asgardians and just beating the ever-loving life out of Thor, killing Loki, and then boxing Hulk in a fight. Just beating the Hulk in a straight-up fight. What an introduction. Then we see something that okay. If I were to explain Thanos, I would explain him as someone who has a purpose, who's given himself a purpose, and will fulfill that purpose to the best of his ability, no matter what is in his way. He sees himself as the only living being who has the will to get things done, to do what he believes is right. And that's the thing. He sees himself as the hero of his own story. He doesn't see himself as a mad conqueror or killer or anything like that. He sees himself as the hero. And he just sees the other heroes as not being able to do what needs to be done. That's why he's collecting the Infinity Stones, to do what needs to be done. And you see this when he challenges people, like, how strong is your will? He challenges Gamora. No, let's start from the beginning. He challenges Quill to kill Gamora. Do you have what it takes to kill her, to protect your friends? And when he finally showed that Quill actually had the will to do it, he even looks at him and goes, impressive. Luckily, he had the Reality Stone and made it so it was completely irrelevant, but still. Oh, can we talk about for a moment how he literally turns Mantis into ribbons and Drax into a pile of rubble and stone? That was horrifying. I thought they were dead. When you see Mantis' eye wink while being as like ribbons, I freaked out. Like, that was horrific. Ugh. And then, of course, you see him testing Gamora by torturing Nebula. Oh man, there's something about a good scream that just gets you deep, and like, she crumbled. Oh, dude. And that was that scene where he had to collect the Soul Stone. I couldn't have thought of a more perfect way to show that. Just the tears welling up in his eyes, because I believe what Gamora said, I've never seen you really tears. He's not crying for himself, because he had to sacrifice the thing he loved most. And that's the thing, you see in subtle ways how much he actually cares for Gamora, even more than Nebula. How he'll talk to her, how he'll feed her, how he'll interact with her. He actually genuinely loved Gamora. Yeah, I guess it's proven at the end when he actually sacrifices her for the Soul Stone, because you can only sacrifice something you love to get that thing. They did such a good job with Thanos in this movie. I specifically say this movie. And don't get me wrong, he's very different from himself in the comics or in the TV shows, but it's still a very well done character. You obviously, Thor did this is something like, if you were to tell me who was the best actor in the MCU, I would probably say Chris Hemsworth. Simply because of that scene where he's talking with Raccoon about what Thanos has taken from him and what he has left to lose. The delivery he does is phenomenal. It's really, really good. It really, really is. I'll still watch that scene and get teary-eyed a little bit. And obviously the entire scene where he's making the Stormbreaker, watching Groot sacrifice his own arm, which is not really a big sacrifice. It's just painful for him. It's not really a sacrifice because he'll regrow the arm. what was this again? Watching Peter Dinklage be a giant dwarf, hilarious. Watching Thor come back with the Stormbreaker, watching all the Avengers just buy Wanda a little bit of time to sacrifice Vision, who's willing to give up his life to save all of them. There's just so much good in that movie. It does have its flaws, but honestly, you could ignore a lot of it. They're so minor, and just, they come up as more of an annoyance than actual flaws. So I would say it's good. I would say it's good. Now we see Captain Marvel. Oh, no, wait. Is it Captain Marvel? Yeah, it's Captain Marvel. No, I'm sorry. Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm going to be honest with you. I actually didn't see Ant-Man and the Wasp when it came out.
What?
When it came out.
Okay, I was going to say, you better not have forgotten we watched that together.
Yeah, we watched it recently. We watched it recently together, and I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't remember that movie. The only thing I remember is they get poofed at the end. Oh, yeah, and they save the original Wasp from the Quantum Zone. I can't remember too much about it. It's a very meh movie. I just remember the main villain girl had like the weirdest powers. Oh, geez, I might need new headphones. Yeah, I might need some tape for this. Alright, moving on. But yeah, I don't remember anything about it. I watched it recently and I don't remember it. I wish I could give more information. Okay, Captain Marvel. Yeah, oh no. Okay. So this is where I'm conflicted. Pre-Endgame, I would have put Captain Marvel as one of the worst movies out of the entire MCU. It doesn't make sense in the timeline. I don't like her as a character. I don't like her as what she does. Okay, so this is where we see like world-breaking problems. Because if you remember, so this movie takes place in the 90s, before all of the Avengers, before any movie we see, apart from obviously Captain America. All the movies we see up until this point happened after Captain Marvel. Which doesn't make a lick of sense, because if you think about it, in the original Avengers movie, all of the planning, all of the Avengers Initiative, all of this is done because Thor shows up with the Armageddon armor, and they couldn't do a thing to touch him. That was their big awakening. That was their big moment. And if you realize, the Kree Empire basically attacked Earth 10 years... Oh, geez, I got the hiccups now. 10 years before that. And their ship blew up outside of Earth's orbit. There's no way that technology is not existing on Earth now. Not to mention, like... Okay, so one of the big flaws you can point out in a movie is when other people are describing the main character more than they're actually doing things, you know there's a problem. Oh, like, she's funny, she's brave, she's strong, but you don't see it in the movie. They're just people telling you she's that. It's a big issue because you basically are admitting that you can't write the character to be that way. You just have to have the people tell you that she's that. It's very boring. It's very poorly done. And then there's these moments where it's like they don't make sense. Like when they're talking about each other. Okay, so let's take for example when Nick Fury and Captain Marvel first meet. They're trying to convince each other that they're not Skrulls in disguise, which doesn't make any sense because no matter what questions you ask each other, there's no good answer because they don't know anything about each other. And when Nick Fury finally asks her, "How do I know if you're not a Skrull?" she shoots a laser beam past his head and destroys the jukebox. Okay, two things wrong with that. One, how does he know the Skrull can't do that? He doesn't. Two, you just fired a laser weapon inches away from his head that destroyed a jukebox. This is an agent of the government who's probably armed. Give me a good reason why he shouldn't pull out his gun and shoot you right there and take that as an act of aggression. That's so risky. And he doesn't know you. He shouldn't know you. Oh, and don't get me started on like how Nick Fury loses his eye. This movie does not, and this is where we see a sign of like other things to come, where they take really important moments and turn them into jokes. Because if you remember in The Winter Soldier, he describes him losing that eye because he trusted someone and he lost the eye because of it. It's just not well handled. I do not like Captain Marvel. And she, at this point, was the benchmark for terrible movies in the MCU for me. At that point, as we go on, we're gonna see why things get way worse than this. All right. From there, we have Avengers Endgame. Now, when I first saw this, I was going to put this in the top tier. It was well made. I loved every minute of it. Well, I shouldn't say I loved every minute. I had some problems with it even when it came out. But that scene from everyone being snapped back into reality. Oh, and I should say that about Infinity War. If you had ended it there with Thanos winning and everyone being snapped out, and then the series just ended, it would have been dark, but I would have accepted it because it was such a strong ending. Now everyone's back. From the moment of everyone getting snapped back and that entire fight scene, it's just something I've always wanted to see my entire life. But as I've rewatched it, less and less makes sense. So it went from well made to good with flaws to it has some serious issues to oh no. Because let's be honest, the time travel doesn't make sense. Because they've done several things to change the timeline. There's none of what they did should work. There's no way they could have made that work. Especially how they describe the line. That's just the time travel. The base mechanic on how everything works does not make a lick of sense. The conflict between Tony Stark and Iron Man gets completely washed aside. Because let's be honest, after Civil War, the biggest thing that came out of Civil War was the fracturing of the Avengers. That was huge. And that's probably why they lost to Thanos in the Infinity War. It gets brushed aside almost out of nowhere, and it's insane because when they finally rescue Tony, he is legitimately mad at Steve Rogers, and they just get past it. Oh, can we talk about the blip, the whole 5 years thing? Okay, the Russo brothers, I have a lot of respect for them as writers, but you can't. I had to believe they were assuming that the end game was literally just the end. Because you can't write, oh, yeah, we erased half of the Earth's population, and then we're going to continue storytelling from there. Because you can't do that. It's such a... If I were to equate that to today's modern time, if the Earth was to randomly lose half of its population, let's begin with just the simple stuff. Half your doctors, half your engineers, half your politicians, half of your workers, just gone. Infrastructures would crumble, states would collapse, suicides, riots, murders would all spike. So not only would you lose half of your population, can you largely make a tier list that looks awfully similar to the order of release? It started at the top, but now it's at the bottom. That looks awfully similar to the order of release. I'm not sure what you're asking, Andrew. Can you largely make a tier list that looks awfully similar to an order of release? So you want me to line them up based on when they came out? So that would be like recent releases just go to the bottom now. What new releases will place among the good movies?
I think what he's saying is just like the older stuff, like the first Captain America movie, the first Iron Man movie, like they're immediately at the top, and now the new releases are pretty much automatically at the bottom, like they're so poorly written.
Yeah, that's basically the fact of the matter is there's some good ones that like we'll get to it when we get. Wait, did I not? Okay, no, we haven't gotten there yet. All right. Yeah, it's gonna get worse, but we'll get there as we get there. The blip, man. So yeah, obviously you've lost half your population, and then you lose more at that point. It's gonna be a catastrophe. And then at the same movie, 5 years later, you bring them all back. Let's not even begin to discuss the catastrophe of bringing people back after that many years. You've more than essentially doubled your current population after 5 years of adapting to what you currently have. It's going to be a mess. Oh my goodness. And here's the thing. I get killing Thanos in the movie early. I get wanting to do your time heist thing. I get all that. They just did it so poorly. And while I liked Thanos coming back as the final boss, if you think about it, the Thanos they fight is not the same Thanos that we've known. Because I think it's summed up best when Wanda starts attacking him. Like, you took everything from me, and Thanos' response was, I don't even know who you are. And the problem is, he's done so much terrible things to so many people, and that's going to be the same answer across the board. What Alec or Hollers does now in COVID time. Well, imagine the MCU world. Yeah, exactly. COVID was a stark highlight of what could happen. 3 years of just like lockdowns, minimal productions, and all that was devastating to our world. And we still kept our population essentially the same. We've lost like a couple million. There's no comparison. Losing half your population like that is insanely devastating. And let's not even start. Okay, so that's just the world building plot stuff. Can we talk about characters for a minute? Okay, I don't even know which character got off scot-free. Oh no, I take it back. Black Widow was the only character out of the entire MCU to get through that entire story without a problem. Maybe Hawkeye. I can kind of understand what Hawkeye went through. Hulk gets all the development in the world completely off screen. We get smart Hulk. I wanted to see that. I want more with the Hulk. And I get there's some licensing issues because he's still technically owned by Paramount. But come on. You could have done better than, oh, I'm fixed now. Awful. Fucking awful.
Language.
You're right. Fat Thor. You had the perfect opportunity for Thor to go on his revenge arc. This whole like darkness that consumes him. And instead you go with like Fortnite playing, beer drinking Fat Thor. And everyone makes fun of him for it. He's literally breaking down saying he has to do this. He has to make up for all of his mistakes. And they're just calling him a... what was it? Like War Machine called him a freaking butterball or something? It's just like...
It's because what he was. He's a butterball.
Yeah, but that's Thor.
Thor the Butterball.
You could have done that better.
King of Asgard, the Butterball.
Oh, yeah. Until he gives it up to Valkyrie, the slave owner. Oh, jeez. Oh, don't get me wrong. And then there was... I think Tony kind of gets away mostly undamaged. Oh, no.
No, you can't say that Tony gets away undamaged because he's already, such damaged goods that he can't really be damaged, as the other characters.
Well, I'm talking about in the sense of his story. Like, he kind of gets away unharmed, and his character kind of gets away... Like, he does get damaged in the sense of, he suffers, but not in the sense that, the writers kind of screwed him up. But... This is the one that actually, legitimately pissed me off the most, was with Captain America. what we know about Captain America is that he is a strong, caring, dedicated individual who will always do what's right for people, even at the cost of his own happiness. And from what I've seen, I think like he'd gotten past the death of Peggy Carter. He'd gotten past his law. Like he's accepted that the past is behind him. So when he goes to the past and stays there, the way they explain time travel is if you go to the past, the only way to wind up back here is to not interact with everything. So not only does he basically abandon Bucky, the guy who's still struggling with the entire identity of the Winter Soldier, not only does he abandon the Avengers who still need him and who have been crippled after losing Tony Stark, and Black Widow, but he goes to the past and has to keep his mouth shut about every devastating event that's going to happen, like from the beginning of the MCU and other stuff, just natural, like 9/11, terrorist attacks. He has to ignore all of that, knowingly ignore it, just to stay with the woman he loves. I do not believe for a second Captain America, Steve Rogers, would ever do any of that. I'm not even going to talk about the shield, giving it to Sam. I have problems with that. I think he should have given it to Bucky, but that's not a big deal. Captain America staying in the past is such a slap in the face to his character. I can't even accept it, man. That's messed up. He would have never stayed. He should have never stayed. The job is never done. Oh, it actually pisses me off so much. Honestly, there's so many changes that really upset me from the future. But out of all of them, that is the change that actually legitimately bothers me. Because Captain America does not give up. Captain America does not leave people behind. And that's what they did in Avengers Endgame. He left people behind. He abandoned everyone. Do
you think he just needed retirement?
Look, and that's a hard argument to fight against, because people will say, like, oh, doesn't he deserve that? Of course, he deserves a lot of things, but he would never accept it, is the problem. Like, he said it himself. If he ever sees trouble coming, he's not the kind of guy who will walk away from it, who will ignore it or walk away from it. He'll go right in there and do the right thing. Endgame has a lot of problems. Endgame makes a lot of problems further down the road. But out of all of the things that and Hulk's my favorite character. I don't like what they did with the Hulk, but this is the worst thing they've done. What they did with Steve Rogers. That one choice is absolutely devastating to his character. I believe we have one more in Phase 3. Yep. Spider-Man Far From Home. Okay, so...
Where they still have the Flash.
What?
They still have Flash.
Oh yeah, Flash Thompson. I thought you meant Flash. When I hear Flash, I always think Flash from DC. Far From Home has a lot of great moments, and it's a pretty solid movie in my opinion. I like how they handled the illusion. I loved how they handled Mysterio. It makes a lot of sense for the character he is. It's a great villain, honestly. The narcissism, the psychopathy, what he's willing to do to keep the secret alive. I loved Peter, how he was dealing with the death of Tony, basically how he lost a father figure, and how the pressure of what's going to happen next. Because he's just a kid, he's not sure what's going to happen, and and that's the thing, most people don't know that he's a kid. They just think he's a really small superhero. It's all very well done. It has some problems here and there, but I honestly can't recall many of them. I will say calling the drone on one of his classmates was kind of a big mistake. I'm pretty sure he would have been smarter than that. Obviously, he didn't do it on purpose, but just the fact that it happened accident.
He had a lady friend on the line.
He did.
That you can't say that, like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Men will do weird things when there's an important lady friend on the line.
I'm pretty sure calling the drone strike is a pretty hard line.
Were you ever a raging teenager with hormones?
Yes.
You would have called a drone strike if it meant back in the day, especially little chubby fat Senor Sparkle. You would have definitely called a drone strike if it would have meant that you could get the lady in the end.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever kill the person for pussy.
I'm not saying you would. I would say
you literally just said I would.
No, because he did not send it on purpose. It was an accident the way it turned out. You would have accidentally. I believe any teenage boy would accidentally.
Anyone can do anything on accident. That doesn't make sense. No. I'm saying he's smart enough for that to not have happened to begin with. Jeez.
Not with boy hormones. All the blood leaves the brain.
Oh, well, that's true, but not to this extent. Moving on. I don't remember what was... Oh my goodness, Black Widow. This is why I don't like prequels. It has the same problem as Captain Marvel, where you can... The character's dead, so I was thinking, what's the worst you can do? You just tell a bland story with Black Widow and hopefully no damage is done? No, they did damage. They did real damage. With her character specifically, and with world building to begin with, because like, this is where like Marvel starts going from like, okay, they ran the range of like big world-ending events to like very small, tight personal stories, and Black Widow had the makings of a very tight personal story, but they couldn't help themselves and go from going into a world-shattering event. Sure, whatever. But man, did they mess her up. First of all, I think she's immortal now. Well, no, she can't be immortal because we're assuming that when she was tossed into the Soul Stone well, that was a magic well. Because she survived a much higher fall in this movie than she did in the Endgame. In fact, I bet you she's still down there on the walls like, guys, did you get the stone? I'm okay.
Guys!
Hawkeye, you picking me up? Hawkeye? Guess I'm walking from a planet in the past.
Hey, if she brought Twinkies with her, those things last for I think they're actually immortal.
First of all, look at her figure. Do you think she eats Twinkies?
No, I'm just saying, even if she's immortal, she would kind of decay, right? Over time? Is that a thing?
It depends on immortality.
If you live on the immortal Twinkies, you won't decay. You'll have bad teeth. You'll have tooth decay.
Are you trying to say she's immortal because she eats Twinkies?
I'm just saying it might coincide.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, that's science. That's just science.
Science with Senor Wife.
Yep. So, I just... Okay, so obviously there's some physics that need to be reworked in this movie. But I think the scene that really bugged me the most, and this is where it gets me super upset, is when they're trying to break... I can't remember his name now, but he's basically the father figure out of prison. And they basically cause an avalanche in the entirety of the prison. As they're escaping, they're kind of celebrating woo, yeah, we got him. And let's be clear, everyone in that prison is basically either dying or dead. There's no... You see all the towers getting knocked over, all the communications getting damaged. There's no way they're going to be able to communicate that they're in trouble. And even if they somehow are able to, it's going to take a long time for them to get out. And you've got a bunch of prisoners and a bunch of guards completely cut off from the world. Good luck. There's going to be cannibalism. There's going to be murder. And they're just celebrating as they're leaving. It's awful. It's actually kind of disgusting. Oh my gosh. Don't even talk about the choreography and the fight scenes. She had so many opportunities to save her sisters and didn't take almost any of them. Oh, and can we talk about the moment where... Okay, the main bad... I forget his name. The main bad guy has this programming in on her that if she's in the room and she smells him, she cannot harm him.
What?
Yeah, it's dumb. It's real dumb. Okay. Well, okay, I'm going to be in this building across the street with this high-powered sniper rifle. Good luck. That'll stop. But no, she doesn't do that. What does she do? She gets close to him and then slams her head into the table, severing I forget what the actual nerve was. I had a doctor explain it to me. Severing the nerve that connects the sense and whatever. And she just breaks her nose on the table. First of all...
Why didn't she just wear, like, a mask that, like, what, like, you know those, like, the gas masks? So, like,
no, honey, that would be smart.
Or, like, not even that, like, it's just such a ridiculous...
There's so many alternatives.
Buy a nose plug. It's not that hard.
But honey, how are you gonna miss? You're gonna miss the scene where Black Widow just slams her face into the table and just I honestly burst out laughing. I thought she was gonna like stand over and then just pass out. It was so funny. Like I laughed. It doesn't make a lick of sense, and I laughed. It's not good. It's not good. All right. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I watched that movie when it came out, and I cannot remember a darn thing. So I'm going to put that in the forgettable. I don't remember laughing.
You're going to get shit on. A lot of people like that movie.
That's fine. I don't remember it.
I think, I can't remember, one of your close friends said he really liked that movie.
Good for him. You can like whatever you want. I don't remember it. I cannot remember it. The Eternals... I think the Eternals... Wait, was it Shang-Chi or was it the Eternals? Yeah, the Eternals are next. This is the one where they had a lot of things to answer for, and they answered none of them. I don't remember much about it either. I just remember thinking, like, whatever explanation they gave for being... Like, because they were around when Thanos was doing his thing, but they were supposed to not interfere, but it was such a stupid explanation. I don't remember that. This one needs work. I just know it needs work. The whole time I was questioning everything. None of it made sense to me. Alright. And then, before we get to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, hold on, I'm sorry. No Way Home. This one is hard for me to place, because I absolutely loved Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it was great. I love seeing the returning Spider-Man. I love seeing all the villains working the way they did. It's just a phenomenal movie.
What was the first Spider-Man? Who was the actor that played it?
Tobey Maguire.
Did you like the return of a 40-year-old Spider-Man pretending to be a college student?
No, he aged.
No, I know. Just in his first movie, it's just like he has the face of a 40-year-old man, but he's trying to be like a fresh out of high school, like kind of. It doesn't work for me.
It worked for me. I don't know what you're talking about. Clearly, you have issues to work through, honey. I can't help you with those. Anyway, I loved it. I think it was great. The problem I have is what they did with Doctor Strange. They made him kind of very I don't want to say not smart, but they kind of retconned his character completely because he was very responsible. He didn't communicate what was happening well, and it caused a lot of problems. I get him wanting to put it all back together. That makes sense to me. But just casting the spell without explaining what's going on, casting a spell like that to begin with, where you're basically wiping everyone's mind out of a certain event, that's huge. That's ethically dubious at best. And that's the thing, Wong hearing about this thing happening and just going along with, not even going along with it, just keep me out of it. Dude, you're the Sorcerer Supreme now. You should be very much involved in this. They didn't do a good job with Doctor Strange. So I'm going to put it under good, but needs work. Good, but flawed. Oh, Tad, you're still down there. Alright, now before we get to Wanda, these are the 3 shows that I've seen. Marvel did a lot of movies, especially after COVID, that went straight to Disney Plus, turned them into shows, and I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. And this is when I first started seeing major issues. starting with WandaVision. The first 3 episodes of WandaVision, you can ask my wife, I was watching them with her. I loved each episode going into it. I was asking questions. I was wondering what was going on. I was trying to piece together whatever clues I could find. And then as soon as they introduced... Sword and Monica Rambeau, everything went downhill. I don't know what happened. I don't know what writers they introduced, but nothing made sense to me anymore. Like, I don't know why Monica was so interested in saving, why Monica was so interested in saving Wanda. I don't know why. I thought someone else was making Wanda do this, or someone else was doing this to the town. It's weird when the people who are portrayed as the antagonists are actually the good guys of the show. Agatha and the leader of S.W.O.R.D. are more virtuous than Wanda in this show, if you really think about it. Because Wanda has effectively kidnapped 3,000 people for a generous assumption 9 days. Removed their autonomy, removed their free will, and is torturing them constantly. They've admitted this. When they're not awake, so when they're not being actively controlled, all they feel is her pain. And I love it because Marvel put out a tweet recently with a picture of Wanda saying, "Name someone who's suffered more than she has." And mathematically, you can prove that all of the people of, I forget what the name of the city was, but in that city or town have effectively suffered more than she has. Because not only do they experience everything she went through, but they had to do that while being controlled on top of that. So, yeah, they've all suffered worse than she has. And don't even get me started on like the people who were just out of at the edge of the town, just experiencing all of that, but perfectly still. Just you can see them crying. They were begging for mercy. And the one time you have Wanda kind of acknowledge this, okay, so I think this was episode 5 where Wanda comes in and says, and he's asked you've got a town. The leader of S.W.O.R.D. walks in and says, "You've got a town full of people in there. You're holding them against their will." And this is a big question. How does Wanda respond to this? What does she say? "I'm not the one with guns." And he should have immediately responded with, "Yes, they're not much compared to your power, but if you don't stop what you're doing, we're going to light you up." He should have opened fire at that point. It would have been justifiable because you stood no chance against Wanda. In fact, this is where Marvel really, really steps in it. This is where you need to reevaluate everything. And even Agatha, who was portrayed as the bad guy, what did she want? She just wanted power. And what does she end up doing? She ends up getting all the town people freed, and she ends up, that's it. She frees the entire town, essentially. She's not the bad guy.
Wanda. She's kind of a bad guy, but yeah.
Why is she a bad guy? Who did she hurt?
No, in general, I mean.
She's an antagonist.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But you can have an antagonist be a good guy.
Can you, though?
Yes. There's tons of stories. Death Note. Light is the protagonist and L is the antagonist. Even though L is the good guy detective. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I like the song. It was Agatha all along, but all she did was really troll Wanda. She didn't really do anything evil. The worst she does is kill a puppy, and we're not even sure if that puppy was a real puppy.
That's it right there. She evil. She killed a puppy.
That puppy might have been an illusion.
Killed the puppy.
Fair enough. Okay, killed the puppy. Automatically evil. After that, we get Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't remember much about this series, honestly. I just remember thinking, wow, they really turned Sam and Bucky into total assholes. They treat... Oh, I forget what his name now is, but the replacement for Captain America, he's basically just Steve Rogers, but more modernized. He the whole time I'm thinking, wow, why are they being so mean to the new Captain America? Because he's just a good guy, and they even beat him up and break his arm and take the shield, and he doesn't really all the time. The whole time he's just checking in on people, making sure they're okay. Oh, they do a terrible job with the Dora Milaje. Like, the whole premise of the movie is, the show is just like, the lines between, like, boundaries and borders. And the Dora Milaje basically admit, we do not respect that stuff. We go where we want, we do what we want, we take what we want. And if that was an American soldier saying that, I guarantee you people would be super pissed. But because it's the Dora Milaje, people just accept it. No, this one's an oh no. This one's a no. This one has a lot of problems. Oh, and don't get me wrong. That final speech that Sam Wilson gives to the entire Senate, all the senators, like, you need to do better. And they say, do you know what to do? Do you know what these problems are? It's like, no, and maybe that's a good thing. Yeah, maybe it's a good thing that you're a complete idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. Oh my.
You don't know, maybe it is a good thing.
When is that ever a good thing?
It's a good thing, honey. Just trust us.
Oh, no.
Honey, just trust.
Pardon me. But yeah, I haven't watched all of the new Marvel stuff now because of all these shows and movies that have come out in Phase 4. Loki. Turn back. Loki does the unforgivable sin of making everything we've watched basically irrelevant. When you've effectively told us that free will is an illusion, and every choice that we have seen these heroes make is because of a guy in a desk saying that these are the choices that they want you to make, and if you make the wrong one, we'll kill you until you make the right one. Great job, Loki. Great job. The whole point of heroism is to be presented a choice and making the right choice, regardless of how hard it is, regardless of what you may lose, regardless of what you are going to sacrifice. It's a choice you make. Being a hero is a choice, and you've effectively told us none of these characters have ever made a choice in their life. Great job, Loki. Great job. Here's your award. Bottom of the tier list. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of other problems in that show, but that's the one that actually, in episode 1, 10 minutes in, and I was hoping at the end of the series they would stray away from that. Nope, they confirm it. They double down on it. Totally a thing. And then WandaVision. I'm sorry. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I can't think of a movie where the main character is not even in the final fight, but there he is, not being there. This is... And I'm happy to see that this is the fastest I've ever seen people turn against the movie. Like, it came out great, everyone loved it, and now everyone's just, like, lighting it up on the internet. It's not a good movie. Doctor Strange is dumb. Wanda is dumb. I don't know where the other Avengers are. This is literally a multiverse-ending threat. And at this point, you call everyone. You call the Avengers. You call the Defenders. You call the fat cop who sits behind the desk just to throw donuts at her. You call everyone. You do whatever it takes to stop Wanda at this point. Nobody is called. It's really bad. Oh, don't get me started on Mecha Chavez. I just couldn't stand her for more than a few minutes. Can we talk about how Doctor Strange just curses a guy to punch himself in the face for about a few weeks? Like, realistically, that could kill a man. Let's be honest, because how are you going to eat? How are you going to sleep? How are you going to function? Good luck. Nice job. What's the worst he did? He spilled mustard on you. Dude, Anyway, moving on. And here's what really hurt me the most. We were finally introduced to Black Bolt, Mr. Fantastic, and Patrick... I want to say Neil Patrick Harris. But Patrick Stewart's version of Professor X in the MCU. And what happens to them? They all get got in minutes in dumb ways. I cannot believe that happened. Oh, man. This movie... Phase 4 has really... I love the Marvel Universe. I love everything Marvel has done. I have a deep connection to Marvel. But after Disney has procured it and what they've been doing with it, I don't know how much longer I can take. Thor Ragnarok is probably going to be the linchpin for me. Because I'm not excited about Black Panther. I'm not excited about Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm not excited. I am excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But Thor Love and Thunder it's already on edge for me. And if they don't pull up now, I don't know what I'm going to do. But that's my tier list. I hope you guys liked it. I had fun.
Everything, destroy the world. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but hey, like and subscribe. But smash that like button.
Smash that follow button. Like and subscribe.
Go and raid somebody, you Debbie Downer.